So dear audience, dear colleagues, let me present the progress of my past 2 years in my PhD research. My topic is accuracy of digital technologies in implant prosthodontics. My name is Boldizsár Vánkos. I'm a third-year resident at the Department of Prosthodontics. My supervisor is Barbara Kispei, my SMS is Kata Kelemen, and a group of statisticians who are helping me are Réka Tóth, Tamáska, and Gergely Agucs. My vision is to establish modern, simple and accurate workflows in implant prosthodontics using novel digital technologies. And my mission to achieve this is to investigate the accuracy and the efficacy of these methods in implant prosthodontics. Currently, I have two projects running. Both of them are meta-analysis. My first project is comparing the accuracy of additive versus conventional cast fabrication and implant prosthodontics. It's a systematic review and meta-analysis. So when fabricating an implant prosthesis, one of the most important factors is that the implant analogs in the cast should be in the exact same position as the implants are in the jaws. To achieve this, dentists most often use the conventional method, which means taking an open tray impression, pouring it with gypsum, which is a well-proven method, but it's time-consuming, it's labor-intensive, and since it's done by hand, it has many possibilities of error, and it's not constant and standard. Additive manufacturing offers a solution to these problems. It can be much more time and cost-effective, it can be partially or fully automated, and therefore it can produce a constant standard quality. However, the accuracy of this method is still not so well known, so my aim was to investigate the accuracy of additive cast fabrication in implant prosthodontics. To answer my clinical question, I used the PICO framework with a population of dental typodonts with implants. The intervention group was additive cast fabrication, the conventional group was, the comparator group was conventional cast fabrication, and their outcomes were 3D and linear deviations of the implant analogs in vertical and horizontal axes. And their hypothesis was that additive manufacturing in implant prosthodontics is at least as accurate as the conventional method. I conducted my systematic search in 3 databases with a total of 3,568 hits, and throughout the duplicate removal and selection process, I got to a final 8 eligible full-text studies. Based on these 8 full-text studies, we conducted several analyses. The first one I would like to present is the analysis of the mean difference of root mean squared deviations. Root mean squared deviation is an often used formula to measure overall 3-dimensional deviations, and it is important data because the positional accuracy of the implant analogs determines the accuracy and the fit of the final prosthesis. We can see that there is quite a high heterogeneity amongst the data. There are data on both sides of the plots. However, we have a clinically acceptable threshold for accuracy, which is 120 micrometers, and since all the data are within the clinically acceptable threshold, we could say that there is neither neither statistically significant nor a clinically relevant difference between the accuracy of the two methods. In the next slide, you can see the horizontal displacement of the implant analogs in the control and in the intervention groups. Again, we can say that there is quite a high heterogeneity. We even see 2 outliers in both groups. Again, we can say that there is no statistically significant nor clinically relevant difference between the accuracy of the two methods if we take the 120 micrometer threshold into consideration. The outliers are most likely because of the exact additive method that the authors used. However, they are all clinically accepted and often used methods, and since there were no clear methodological difference, we decided to pool all these data together. All in all, we can say that our study introduces a novel problem statement with also involving the cast fabrication and not only the impression taking. We follow the strict methodology and reporting system, and in contrast with the previous reviews on this topic, we could also conduct a statistical analysis. The main limitation is the low number of data, the inconsistency amongst the methodology and the reporting in the data reporting in the included articles. Our conclusion is, however, that additively manufactured implant models are as accurate as the conventional gypsum cast, which means in practice that the additive technology is as reliable as the conventional one, and clinicians can decide to use either technology based on each case and based on the specific needs. For the research, we would like to have more coherent and more consistent data reporting, and we would like to shift the focus from in vitro to in vivo. I submitted this manuscript in the Journal of Prosthodontic Research, which is a D1 journal, in last year, October, and since then it's still under review. The first 2 reviews were real reviews, and since the beginning of May we have repeated technical issues, but all the major problems have been addressed and solved. My second topic is comparing the accuracy of conventional versus different implant impression techniques. It's a systematic review and meta-analysis. Conventionally, the gold standard in implant prosthodontics is considered to be the open tray impression technique with splinting of the implant copings and with the use of some high quality impression materials such as polyether or type A silicone. This is an unpleasant and lengthy method, which is uncomfortable for the patient, and it's a very complicated method for the clinicians and for the dental technicians as well, with the many possibilities of error. Digital impression taking with either intraoral scanners using scan bodies or coded healing abutments can be painless, can cause much less discomfort, and it can be 2-3 times faster than the conventional impression taking methods. And in some cases, for example, rehabilitation or prostho cases, it's much more easier to conduct than the conventional method. However, the accuracy of these intraoral scanners is still under discussion, so my aim is to investigate the accuracy of different digital impression techniques compared to the gold standard open tray impression. Again, we choose to answer the question with the PICO framework, and in this case we have 2 intervention groups, digital impression taking with scan bodies and with coded healing abutments, and depending on the data that we can extract, we can possibly construct a meta-analysis if we have enough intervention, if we have enough data for all the interventions. And the outcomes are going to be, again, 3D and linear deviations of the implant analogs. I have conducted the systematic search in 3 databases with a complete number of 2,081 articles, and the selection protocol is done. And in this case, I have a quite high number, 68 eligible full-text articles. Currently, my second project is at the phase of data extraction, and I would like to finish this during the summer. As a summary, my first project is submitted and under review since October 2023, and I plan to submit my second project during autumn this year. Some additional activities outside CTM. Last year, I had the possibility to present my PhD research at the Congress of the Hungarian Prosthodontic Society. And I have an ongoing in vitro study since the beginning of last year, and I got an accepted oral presentation possibility for this year International Association for Dental Research in Geneva, Switzerland. So thank you for your attention, and I would like to finish my presentation with a quote from Antal Serb: "As long as we keep moving, we don't notice how tired we are, but only when we sit down."
Thank you very much. Very nice. You developed a very good connection with the editorial board there.
Yes.
Exchanging letters every 2 weeks. So hopefully it will end
However,
up with
it takes usually 2 weeks for one letter, but yes.
Well, in the old age, it was like that. I wonder if any questions in the audience?
So the other thing, which is not your fault, because I'm doing a lot of review in these topics, and I need to correct constantly the 120 micrometer threshold, because this is invented in 1971. I remember because I born in that year. So McLean, and they measure the marginal gap, marginal discrepancy, but this is another question. And everybody referred this, everybody. But first of all, this is marginal gap, which is probably theoretically related to any discrepancy which is measured by RMS or whatever metrics. But there is no evidence that how they correlate it, first of all. The second one, we are measuring just the model, or a lot of people using this for scan accuracy. But this is just one part of the whole workflow. And McLean measured the whole workflow because they clinically measured the clinical acceptability. So I made a rough calculation. So I collected all of the manufacturing error in CAD/CAM system. And the average was like 60 micrometer, and then I calculated with this Pythagoras theorem, and then finally I end up with 100 micrometers, which is a little bit better threshold than 120, because you still have to consider the whole process. And I'm giving a lecture this April in a dental upgrade conference, and then after that, Paul Gerlozzi came to me and said that no, it should be 60 micrometer, the whole process. So I'm just telling you that you have to be a little bit more careful. I know that everybody uses this threshold, but I would be more cautious. So I would go down at least under 100 micrometer, because this is just one step of the whole process. If you are lucky, one error from one step cancel out the other step, but that's why we use the Pythagoras theorem to calculate the average error. But so this is not related to your research, just the interpretation and the discussion. Okay.
Thank you very much for your comment. It's absolutely valid, and we have spent a huge amount of time, and in my manuscript, the biggest part of the discussion is based around this whole problem that you described. Basically, each part of what you just said is a few sentences at least in my discussion. The main reason that we decided to use this threshold, even though it's outdated and even though it's not perfectly applicable to the implant position, is because that there is no obvious and no widely accepted thresholds in the literature. So when I started the not just the analysis but the systematic review part of this whole project, I found very different thresholds or very different accuracy depending on the technology, depending on the use of either the casts or even the prostheses themselves. And also a long part of the discussion is based around the fact that we cannot even decide what causes the inaccuracy, because we have so much steps during the workflow, and each of those steps can contribute to the overall accuracy or inaccuracy of the final, either the cast or the prosthesis. And one of the implications in the manuscript is also that we would need more research in order to have a consensus regarding the clinically acceptable threshold. And also it depends, because if we look at the implant positions, then the marginal discrepancy is not so important. We can either approach it from the occlusal inaccuracies, because that's what the patient most likely notices, or the interdental contact points, because that can also influence the clinical acceptability, or the passive fit. But in this case, since we only had these numerical data, we choose this.
And that would be my second question. Regarding your second project,
yes.
Why don't you make parallel investigation by yourself? Because it's not so an in vitro investigation.
My in vitro project is.
Because that's a very interesting question.
Yes, that's my in vitro project. So thank you.
Congratulations for your progress. Like, will there be a subgrouping regarding the number of teeth? Like, for example, if one tooth or short span, it differs than full mouth. So,
Thank you. In the first project, regarding the cast fabrication process, we didn't have enough data for subgrouping. In the second project, which also includes different impression taking technologies, and we have much more eligible articles, we are going to make subgroups. Currently, the data extraction is not completely finished, but currently I plan to have one subgroup for solo restorations, one for maximum 4 5-unit bridges, and one for full mouse bridges.
Also for the second project, like can be like the pattern of scanning and the type of scanner be a confounding factor?
Absolutely, it can be a confounding factor. It's going to be a question after the data extraction that if we have enough data, if we have enough additional data to face these confounding factors, or we just pool everything together.